welcome to a very special edition of The Piano Men with Stanley Carr. Joining me tonight on the show is Grammy-nominated music producer, mixer, and multi-instrumentalist Gary Earl. Gary produces demos, singles, EPs for artists, songwriters, film, and TV. His work producing, playing, and mixing is Grammy-nominated and plays daily in 112 countries on major media. Recordings done at Gary Earl's Smashville studio have reached #1 in regional radio, #1 on ReverbNation, #1 SongJam, #1 Billboard, and John Lennon's songwriting contests, and more. They play on HBO, Disney, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, Batman, Pokemon, The Bachelor, Ellen, and many more. Gary's songwriting won a prestigious National Kennedy Center Award for the Arts. He's been a consultant to Apple for their audio recording software, and through the producers and engineer wing of the Grammys, helped create guidelines for studios to deliver albums and songs to record labels. He also lectures and teaches at the Taxi Road Rallies in Los Angeles and the NSAI Songposiums in Nashville for Songwriters Guild, and Indie Connect and Songu online. Gary has also worked with label A&R, publishing, and film and TV music coordinating for RCA, Sony, and Kasia Hirschhorn, all in either Los Angeles or Nashville. His studio is located in Nashville, and he graduated cum laude with honors from FHSU with a Bachelor of Music degree. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Hi, Stanley. Good to be here. By the way, I have one more thing to add to that just happened recently. I produced a piece for a Norwegian alternative group that just went #1 in Asia.
Woo!
It was very cool.
Man, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, they got, they're Norwegian, but they got signed to Sony Asia. I don't know. I'll find out more details later.
Sure. So we'll kind of kick this off by tell me a bit about your early childhood. Where did you grow up?
Oh, you know, if you take a map of the 48 states and find the exact center, and that's where I grew up. Literally 2 miles from the exact center, 2 miles from the Pony Express station where they wrote Home Sweet Home back in the, I don't know, 1800s, I guess. But out in the middle of nowhere. So, as they say, it's, well, people used to ask me what it was like on the plains out there, and I used to say it's sort of like being on the forehead of God. You're not at the end of the earth, but you can see it from there.
So Midwest?
Yeah, Kansas.
Ooh,
yep.
That's pretty
Just
cool.
out on the plains. 5 hours from the nearest airport. Back then it was 1.5 hours from the nearest McDonald's.
What made you want to pursue a career in music?
Oh, honestly, gosh, I grew up around more animals than people, and every night I'd go to bed and turn on a little transistor radio and listen to these radio stations in Chicago, and it seemed like the only magic in my life. So I was like, I want to be able to do that, you know. So, and that's pretty much what I've been doing for I don't know, 25 years now, 30, whatever. It's been a while.
Very impressive.
Oh.
So who were some of the first influences of yours as far as music goes?
You know, gosh, almost everybody has favorite groups, you know, or favorite genre of music, and I've never been that way. For me, it was always favorite songs. So I've always loved a wide variety of things. There were Motown things that I absolutely adored. You know, Beatles, Stones, all those, Mozart. You know, I mean, in a little tiny town like that back then, the radio station played everything. They would play Frank Sinatra, then they would play Chuck Berry, then they would play Elvis, then they would play, I mean, it was all over the map. So I've just always loved certain songs, certain productions, you know. So I can't really point to any one artist or genre, you know.
Well, I know a lot of radio stations back in the 60s and 70s had a lot of top 40 formats. They had a lot of
Yeah.
different kinds of music, as you're describing.
Yeah.
Was there one particular moment that made you go, this is exactly what I want?
Well, what I really loved was Chicago was WLS. They definitely played pop. So they literally had pop and light rock and Motown, you know, which is basic pop. And that was always my favorite. But as far as, you know what, actually, I can give you an exact moment.
Sure.
Probably when I really got started was, I had a tape recorder, and I used to tape record songs off the radio.
Okay.
And I would DJ at parties, you know, 4-H, church, whatever, you know, Boy Scout parties. And I had a mic and a guitar amp and a tape recorder. So anyway, the very first Elton John song played, and the announcer said, "This is the first time it's playing in the United States." It was called "Your Song."
Oh man, that's beautiful. I love that. I love that song. It's a little bit funny.
I learned it, like, you know, the next day, and then at church youth group, there was a girl that I fancied, for whatever. I'm trying to think of a genteel way of saying it. And so I said, and I don't know, I'm probably 8th grade, maybe, I don't know. I don't know, whatever, freshman. Anyway, so I said, "Can we go up in the sanctuary? I want to play a song for you." So we went up, and I, in the dark, sang your song and played it for her. And she started crying, and she was like, "Oh, that's so beautiful. You wrote that for me?" So, of course, like a good, you know, boy, I said, "Yeah." And things were wonderful for a couple of days until she heard on the radio and realized that I didn't write it. And that was, so she didn't talk to me for a couple of months. And that was the point where I realized I was going to have to write my own songs. So that was probably the turning point, you know, as I saw what the power of music could do. And yeah, so that was probably it. By the way, I got to meet Bernie Taupin, you know, who wrote all the lyrics.
Oh, yeah.
Years later in LA, and I told him that story, and he howled. He thought it was great. He was like, "That's the best story I've ever heard of someone stealing my music."
That's just a great story. I actually went to go see Rocket Man last year when it came out. I thought the story was really well done. Just captured the essence of Elton's musical abilities combined with Bernie's songwriting. So if you haven't seen Rocket Man, go see it. It's a really well put together movie. So do you remember the first tapes or CDs you remember listening to?
Well, I do remember the first record that I bought. It was Rolling Stones' Greatest Hits 2. That's the first record that I ever bought that I, you know, honestly, that I remember. So obviously I was a fan of theirs, apparently.
And they've got quite a bit of a catalog too. Gimme Shelter.
Yeah, that was great. I think Painted Black was part of why I bought it. And I don't know, maybe, I don't know what else was on there. Maybe Brown Sugar, A Honky Tonk Man. Probably, maybe Start Me Up Even, I don't remember.
Ruby Tuesday.
Yeah, probably.
Kind of great songs. So tell me about the first gig you got to play as a musician. Do you remember some of the first gigs you went out and played around clubs? Well,
my first professional gig, yeah. I mean, I was in a band in middle school. We played horse shows. It's kind of sad, actually.
Yeah.
But then in high school, I was probably, I don't know, junior or senior, and we had our first gig. We put a band together with a couple of college guys and one adult, and we rented the the local gymnasium, put up posters all over town, you know, and played. And I think we were going to charge $1 to get in or something, you know. I don't, maybe it was free. I don't know. Anyway, the point is, there was about 20 kids who stood literally right outside the door listening and didn't come in. So we literally played to an empty gymnasium.
Yeah.
That was the first gig. And then somewhere in college, I started playing Friday nights. I played with a bunch of old guys at VFW clubs playing old country and old rock. And then Saturday nights, I was playing with college kids. We were playing college dances, high school dances, doing Earth, Wind, and Fire and Stevie Wonder and stuff like that, you know. So
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Anyway, and by the way, you mentioned Cash or Hirschhorn. You might appreciate them. That was when I first moved to LA. I got a job interning with them, and they were this great Brill building writing team. A couple of Jewish kids from Brooklyn, Bronx, you know, and they were amazing. They had Tonys, Grammys, Oscars, Emmys.
EGOTs. They're what you call EGOTs. They win everything.
They were legendary, and I learned a ton from them, and got to you know, great guys. I really learned how to write from them, honestly, and that's probably what got me into TV and film too, because they did a lot of that, and I learned a lot. I got to work on All Dogs Go to Heaven and a lot of other movies working with them. So that was a good start. Joel Hirschhorn was an eccentric genius. He was a lot like Woody Allen's in the movies, but not like the real Woody Allen, like what Woody Allen plays in the movies, you know?
Right, the characters.
He was genius, but he had no idea he was genius. Like the LA, and he became a really good buddy, him and his wife. And the LA Symphony asked him to write a concerto and play and be the guest pianist. So, I mean, that gives you an idea of his skill.
Sure.
And he was scared to death to even do it. I mean, he just had no idea he was a genius, but he was.
So we'll go ahead and play one of these cuts that you sent to me earlier. This is called Dragon's Territory. Tell me about this. This is from one of the Pokemon movies.
Yeah, it's right. It's a Pokemon song, and I guess I had a kid who was probably, I don't know, second, third grader, and at school they had to bring your dad to school so we can talk about his work. And I volunteered, and my kid was like, "Oh, you know, nobody wants to hear you because nobody's heard of any of the stuff you do. It's, you know, all old people music." So that's why I got some music into Pokemon.
Okay.
Then from then on, all of his classmates thought I was dope. You know? Then they were like, "Your dad is dope." So, and you know, if you're a music aficionado, you probably know the music in Pokemon is, you know, I mean, it's not real high quality music.
Right. It's like the 8-bit, like MIDI sounds, like video games.
Yeah, it's kind of rough, but you know, but it gave me cred with a whole generation.
Sure.
So.
Can't go wrong with that. All right, so we're going to play a little bit of this. This is Pokemon here on The Piano Men with Gary Earl. You're tuned to The Piano Men with Stanley Carr. I'm chatting with multi-instrumentalist and producer Gary Earl tonight about his illustrious career. Now, you graduated from FHSU, I believe that's Fort Hays State University, with a cum laude in music and theater. Tell me about your experiences there.
Did you happen to see the Kevin Costner movie Dances with Wolves?
Yes.
Okay, when he went out west looking for a fort and he found that one little tiny broken down shack of wood, that's where Fort Hays State University is today.
Oh man.
So that's where I went to school.
That's cool.
Literally there. So you know, there you know, it was so long ago, there weren't very many schools doing pop music. Literally had to go to UCLA and LA.
Sure.
I think University of Arizona had a course in modular synthesizers, and that was about it back then. And of course, Juilliard, but Juilliard was more classical. I wanted pop, but the out-of-state intuition was beyond my reach, so I went to the local university and got a classical degree in singing opera. And I took fourth in the nation as a senior.
Oh, wow. That's
so
great.
I did okay. A buddy of mine in my class took first, and since then he's starred in 10 major Broadway productions, including taking over Phantom of the Opera from Michael Crawford and things. So, you know, that, but, you know, it was not exactly the education I was looking for, but it was okay. So.
And you certainly gave you your start.
Yeah, yeah. And then right out of school, took off, headed west for Nevada and California. So lived at Lake Tahoe a few years, singing and playing in the casinos in Vegas, Reno, and Tahoe, and then moved to LA eventually. So,
do you have any fond memories of your time playing in the casinos?
Honestly, you know, I did have a lot of fun. Most of the fun, though, was climbing and hiking when I wasn't working, because I love the mountains. I've, you know, climbed 100 mountains and spent a lot of time on top of 10 to 12,000 foot peaks, and had a lot of close bear encounters, cougar encounters. There was one gig in particular that was fun. The Air Ambulance Authority had a convention, and that's the, you know, the medics and the helicopter pilots, you know, that go out in helicopters. And these people have a real high dangerous, high stress job, so they party hardy. And there were several hundred of them, probably 2,000, I think, in the MGM Grand Convention Center. And they brought in everything. It was a MASH flavored parties. So they brought in Jeeps, tents, tanks, parachutes, the whole 9 yards. I had the band dressed in surgical gear, and my wife's singing was in a nurse's outfit. And that was a great party, because, and then we used to do things like we'd play the limbo and bring out a limbo stick.
Oh, cool.
But when you have 2,000 people, that's a mistake, because we had to play the limbo for 45 minutes nonstop so that everybody could go at once. And, you know, it's like, you know, not even stopping. That was, but it was fun.
Did you get to do that every night?
No, that was a rare occurrence, you know. That was very rare doing that. For the most of the time we were performing in the casinos or the casino lounges or in the showrooms or whatever, you know. So the conventions were a little side gig.
Sure.
So I played literally in every room in Tahoe, Reno, and Vegas over the 9 years I spent there. So sang and played, you know.
So right now I'm going to throw out some names of people in the entertainment industry that you've worked with, and if you can, tell me a little bit about what it was like to work with them. And this is when I've had people on before, it's mainly just been the music industry, but you've been working in all kinds of stuff in the field. Oh yeah. So
I don't know. Yeah, actually, I have a list of all the people I've worked with. I should have got that too. There's probably a lot of people on there that you may not be aware of too.
Well, we feel free to tell me. But we'll start with Keanu Reeves.
Oh yeah, worked with him on a movie, and this was in his younger days, like right around the time of The Matrix. And
sure.
He was cool because I was supposed to be in a band that was performing in the movie, and the directors came over, and we'd all been hired through the AFM, you know, the union. But the directors come over and they said, you don't look like a keyboard player, you're a drummer, and you're a guitarist. So they made us all change instruments, which was weird. And so they put me, fortunately I knew how to play all the instruments anyway, and they put me on the drums, and every break in filming, Keanu would come running over and go, give me a drum lesson. So I got to give him some drum lessons. And of course, we were in trouble constantly because drums make a lot of noise, and the director would be, talking to somebody, and Keanu would be pounding the drums. And so, of course, he couldn't yell at Keanu, so he'd yell at me. Anyway, but that was fun. Really nice guy. Really nice guy.
Clint Eastwood?
Oh, he was great to work with. I used to watch all his old movies and think, he's not really an actor. He's a movie star, and his movies are, the early movies were more like B movies,
Yeah.
Right. And I could never figure out why everybody loved working with him. And then when I worked with him, I figured out why. Is because it's like on most movies, you got like a New York director who's a little high strung. If something goes wrong, if a light breaks, somebody does something wrong, they'll throw a clipboard and scream and rant and yell, and people scurry around and all this. And Clint was just quiet. It's like normally, they're yelling, okay, quiet on the set, roll, all this. And with Eastwood, it's, he was just like, okay, let's go. And so Ray Price was supposed to be Bob Wills, and I was one of the Texas Playboys.
Huh.
And so Ray Price goes up to Clint and he goes, Clint, he said, I've never been in a movie. Like, what's my motivation? How do I act this? And Clint scratched his chin and said, well, Ray, how the hell should I know? You're the singer, just sing. And that made me realize why everybody loved Clint, because, if you want a singer, you hired a singer and just told him to go sing. And no yelling, just peace. And it's like what normally would have taken about 2 or 3 hours to shoot, 5-minute scene, we spent 3 days. We hung out just jamming, playing music, and playing poker. Had 3 food trucks there. Maybe you realize why everybody loves working with Clint. Just really easy to work with, He just hires whatever he wants. He hires the real deal, and it just tells him to go do it. And if somebody makes a mistake, like if you trip going through a doorway, he doesn't reshoot it. He goes, "That's real. We'll keep that."
That's pretty cool.
So anyway, yeah, he was nice to work with. I liked him a lot. I wound up going out to lunch 3 times with him.
Who are some of the, so tell me about some of the other people in the entertainment industry you've worked with. Got any more fun anecdotes?
Well, geez, I was around a lot of people. Yeah, I had, like Rodney Dangerfield was a good friend of Joel's. And I was over at Joel's house one day in Beverly Hills, setting up his, little recording studio for him. And Rodney Dangerfield stopped by. Apparently they were roommates in the early days, but when neither one of them, had done anything. And Rodney, his act that he had on stage?
Yeah.
That all the time. He literally would come walking in the door and go, "Oh, you don't believe it. I got stopped by the cops on the way over here." I said, "You know who I am?" I don't get no respect. Just, I was Rodney. He was that way all the time. It was bizarre.
One of the most funniest comedians in the world.
Yeah.
Ever.
And he's like, it wasn't an act. That was him. And Mark Harmon, who's a big hunk for all the ladies. So what is it? NCIS or whatever.
Yeah.
So I actually worked with him on a couple of movies, and I wound up going over to his house to tune his piano.
Oh, wow.
As I was a piano tuner before I started getting cuts and acting. And Mark Harmon was just a really nice, easygoing guy. He's it just seemed like your neighbor. You know what I mean? Nice guy. So I was there was a problem with the pedal on her Steinway, and his wife was she was Morkan Mindy. She's famous.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name right now. Anyway, so I'm like trying to describe what's wrong with the pedal, and she says, "Well, show me." So we get on our backs under the piano, side by side, and I'm trying to describe what's going wrong. And this is actually before I acted with Mark, before he knew me.
Pam Dauber, that's her name.
Yeah, Pam Dauber. So I'm under there, side by side on our backs, Pam Dauber, and the door opens up. Mark is coming in from the gym, And, you know, I just heard the door shut, and he started screaming, and he threw his gym bag against the wall. He goes, "Oh my God, last week the plumber, now the piano tuner." Oh, and I scrambled out in front of the piano, and of course she's laughing because she knows he's joking. And he was just, you know, giving me a hard time. So that's the kind of sense of humor he had. So.
What else can go wrong, right?
Yeah. So he was a nice guy. And then, like, I remember one of the movies of the week that I acted with him, I was an extra, you know, a bit person, you know.
Yeah.
Character.
Yeah.
And it was, he was supposed to be a doctor who fell in love with a patient in a hospital. And we went to a deserted hospital, and it was a movie of the week for like CBS. So it was cheap.
Yeah.
And they had 12 extras. So in the first scene, 6 of us jumped in bed and pulled the covers up to our neck, and the other 6 put on white, you know, white doctor jackets.
Yes.
Clipboard. And
Lab
then we
coats.
would be doing this, and then he would be talking to her, you know, in front of us. And then for the next scene, everybody that was a patient would dress up like a doctor, and everybody was a doctor. And so it was a real, I think it was the first movie I was in, and it was a learning experience because I realized then how nobody looks at anyone but the lead character, because they had the entire hour-long movie, they had the entire hospital scene. There was the same 12 of us in the background all the time, just changing hats or glasses, and it was weird. I thought, how can nobody notice? But nobody notices.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was cool. So yeah, there was a lot of cool people. There's a famous director who did Hill Street Blues and NYPD Blue and all of them. Stephen spaced his name anyway. So he wanted to shoot a promo shot for, I think it was NYPD Blue we were in, but he didn't have a license, right? You know, you're supposed to get a license to shoot anything. Right. And he was like, you know what, we'll just run around the corner here over on Sunset, and it'll just take a minute, we'll be fine. So me and this other guy, one of us was going to be a mugging, you know, the other one. And so, you know, so it's like one of us is up against the building, and the other one's like, you know, going through his pockets. And he's standing there with a small camera, and all of a sudden the cops, of course, whip the siren and pull up, and, you know, thinking that there's a robbery going down, and come out with their guns. So that was an interesting moment. Then, of course, once they saw his ID and knew who they were like, all apologies. But you're supposed to get a license, though. They know what's going on.
Got to get that license. That's important. That's crucial to the industry that you're working in.
Oh yeah. There was another time. Good gosh, Beverly Hills Cop, the comedian. Oh, it's like one of the most famous black comedians. That's based his name. After Richard Pryor, before Chris Rock was original Saturday Night Live cast member.
Eddie Murphy?
Thank you, Eddie Murphy. So Eddie Murphy's shooting a scene, and they're having trouble getting the scene, and all of a sudden, it's just him and one other person, all of a sudden his cell phone goes off. And so, of course, everybody's like, oh, okay, you know, gonna stop filming, and Eddie's like, you know, like, son of a bitch, you know, whose goddamn cell phone? And he's looking around the room, and in a few seconds, he realizes it's in his pocket. It's his own cell phone going off. So that was funny. Then he was like, okay, that's it. Call the ice cream truck. Treats on me for everybody. So.
Yeah, that's great. So you got all these fun stories. You've gotten the chance to work for some major companies like Disney, Universal, and Warner Brothers. Can you describe the feeling of having your productions reach the national and international platform?
Geez, you know, I guess probably the best description is relief. Just because, you know, that's what you aspire to do. And every time that you don't make it there, then you feel like you have to work harder. So when it happens, it's like relief, you know. But the thing is, you don't always know, because you can be shooting, like, unless it's a major film that's headed for theaters with $100 million budget, a lot of the smaller films, you don't really know where it's going to wind up. So, like, you can be working on a small film, and the producer is going to sell it. And so when you're filming it, and then sometimes, even if it has major stars in it, if it doesn't come out really great, sometimes it goes straight to video, you know?
Absolutely.
Or, you know, straight to Netflix or whatever. And then if it comes out better than they expect, they'll wind up selling it to HBO or Disney. And so you don't always know, even, you know, no matter who the actor. Obviously, there are some actors that are guaranteed gold, but not that many, you know. So you just, you know, you never know for sure. It's you know, it's odd how it works that way. So, like, this one gig, this one Disney film, we actually got a call from it was IRS Media, and it was Sting and Copeland of the Police.
Yeah.
They own IRS Media and IRS Records.
Yeah.
They had done a film about the bombing of Pearl Harbor time.
Yeah.
They needed an hour of big band music, and I think I don't know, did I send you a song from this or not? Maybe I didn't. I don't know.
I don't think you did.
It was a big band song score, and they said, "Can you do big band?" And I'd never even heard big band.
Yeah.
I had no idea even what it was, but I said, "Of course." That's what you do. You say, "Sure, of course," and
Absolutely.
you just you know, then you need to pull it off, and if you don't, well, it's not good. But so we wound up doing that, and actually another interesting story during that recording was we were recording in Entourage Studios in Hollywood or North Hollywood, and it was in the 90s, so it was at the height of gang warfare. And in the middle of the recording, somebody was murdered on the street right in front of the door of the recording studio, and the body's a half under the red Corvette that belonged to the keyboard player. So the cops, to tape off the whole recording studio, they got a chalk outline the body, and they come in. But it's LA, so they don't interrupt. They say, "Excuse us, but when you take a break, we need to talk to you about the murder." And so anyway, but the point is, we wound up getting that done and getting it in. It was a small $5 million movie, but it turned out really good, and we did a really good job of the music. So Disney wound up buying it, and it was a Disney Channel movie, and it still plays often on Pearl Harbor Day. Like, you know, it's been 20 years.
Wow.
But they still put it on a lot. So it's like you don't always know where the movie's going to wind up.
Right.
So, and then there'll be other films that you know you're doing it for HBO or Disney, and you think, "Oh, this is going to be great," and you spend a lot of extra time and effort on it, and then if the movie stinks, then it's sort of they may just sell it to video, and
you'll put all your hard work in it, and it just goes up in smoke if it doesn't meet the receptions of the executives and the powers that be.
Well, you know, because it's, you know, it's true with all art. You never know if it's going to turn out great or not, you know?
Yeah, exactly. We'll kind of transition here. I know you sent me this pop demo, this pop song.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Okay, this is sort of in the style of Portugal the Man or Jonas Brothers. And we haven't even pitched this yet. So we have no idea where it's going to wind up at all. No idea. But it's just a nice song. And the guy that's singing it is a buddy who actually does all the Power Rangers music. And I think he sang the Power Rangers song too. And he sang it for us. And gosh, not much else to say about it, I guess, at the moment, because we haven't pitched yet, so we don't know where it's going to land. Might be a commercial, might be a TV show, who knows? I mean, there's a possibility that nobody will ever hear it, except on our website. You never know.
Well, we'll premiere it right here on the Piano Man. This is a pop demo from Gary Earl. I know you've worked in Los Angeles for a long time. What brought you to Nashville?
Oh, gosh, several things, a number of things. one of them, it seemed like a good place to raise a kid, and we wanted to have a kid, and that, I hadn't started a family yet. It just, the cost of living in LA is, at least double, maybe triple of what it is here.
Oh yeah.
So, to live in the same house and neighborhood that I live here in Nashville, I might need to be making $1 million a year in LA. So,
Oh man.
it's just there's a huge cost of living difference, and I just view things like that.
And we
Uh,
talk about, yeah.
and of course, today Nashville is the hot spot to be.
It
So,
is.
all my favorite bands in LA are either moving here or planning on moving here. It's it's kind of nuts.
And to add on to that, you're working in all different aspects of the entertainment industry. Film has definitely taken off here in TV with the show Nashville that aired on ABC, several different reality shows, all kinds of production work. Tell me about how you feel that industry has grown here compared to New York or LA.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's actually, I mean, it's still in its infancy, but it's definitely growing, and I think part of the reason is that in LA and New York, they really think of Nashville as the songwriting mecca,
Mm-hmm.
and that they really they just look toward Nashville for not only songwriting but also for a lot of new artists.
Yes.
Because we've actually had quite a few rock and pop major acts break out of here in the last few years too. Of course, Paramore, Cash, Kings of Leon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can go on. On and on. Hot Shell Ray, another good example, and there's an increasing amount of synth music is coming out of Nashville now. Really boom if the state gave tax breaks toward filming the way that other states do. Like Georgia gives tremendous tax breaks.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of other states that attract a lot of films and TV shows because of giving tax breaks. And Tennessee is not really doing that yet. They're not really on board. And if they could get on board, it would make a huge difference because, quite frankly, half the people I know in LA want to move here, So.
And I know you and your wife, Robin, have been great people. You both have worked together for a long time. And how did the both of you meet?
Actually, I think we met at a health fair introduced by some of my clients. I was singing a music band that I was in had just broken up, and I was planning on moving to LA, and somebody offered me a job playing a piano bar for like 9 months, and which was really weird, but it was paid very good money, and I can talk easily, so that worked out really well. And there was a bunch of psychologists that came to the piano bar and sat around the piano often.
Mm-hmm.
And they kept trying to hook me up with different girls. And so at the health fair, I went to the health fair just because they insisted that I go to hear this motivational speaker. And, I'd worked until 1 or 2 a.m. and driven an hour. I lived up a mountain canyon, so I didn't get home until 3. And yet I was back down there at 8 in the morning, for this health fair. And they introduced me to my wife, future wife, as she was the head of jazzercise for the whole state.
Wow.
Was there putting on a demo or, something. So, and that's where we met. So
Cool. And the both of you are working together. You started your own production company here called Gary Earl Productions. Can you describe how you got it up and running in the beginning?
Gosh. Well, literally, to use a 200-year-old expression, literally hung out a shingle, you know, and people who were songwriters that wanted to do pop or get something, you know, in a TV or show in LA knew that I had experience doing that, where almost all of the demo studios on Music Row did country demos, and really they would, you know, trying to be doing a pop song, but it would always come off sounding like a country demo. So a lot of people started coming to us for that specifically. And then just pretty much just all word of mouth.
Very
really
interesting.
What it is, so.
What's a typical session like for you in the studio?
Oh, well, a typical session is literally only me. Literally, I almost always play everything. And occasionally, if I need, like, say, a style of guitar that I know I can't do well or right, then I'll bring in a guitar player. So, like, say, if I'm doing a country song, I'll bring in a guitar player, bass player, steel player.
Sure.
As I don't do country guitar, I don't play that clean
Right.
that well.
Yeah.
I play more alternative, more like Kurt Cobain,
Nirvana.
Yeah.
Like Foo Fighter type of music.
More of that kind of stuff. I can do that real well, but not real clean country. But most of the time, if it's pop rock or alternative, I tend to play almost everything. I started playing drums after, you know, growing up in a small town in Kansas. We always thought drummers, you could grab a drummer 5 minutes before a gig and you know, because they don't need to know the chords and things. But once I hit Las Vegas and got around some high-level professionals, that's when I realized that, you know, the drums may be the single most important thing in your band.
Yeah.
And so I started learning how myself and playing my own and things. So typically I'll someone will give me a song and I'll help them go through it to check lyrics, as the lyrics may need tweaked a little bit to make them sync friendly. And then we'll talk about what they're hearing it, you know, like what do they hear it sound like? Is there a certain artist, or, you know, what do they hear in their head to get it there? And then I'll start. Typically, I usually lay down drums first. Drums first, often then bass, and then start layering on, you know, the rhythm, guitars, pianos, whatever, and things. You know, and literally build from there. You know, then late in the session, you'll put on whooshes and hits, and you know, ear candy, sweetening, and then we'll bring singer in to have the singer perform on it. And Robin voice coaches the singers all the way through it, and even we use, you know, people who've been finalists on American Idol and Voice and things, and even those people, even more than everyone, those people love being voice coached by a good voice coach that can really, you know, help them get it right. Because a lot of indie artists don't realize it, but tremendous singers like Rihanna or Beyonce all use voice coaches on their session.
Yeah.
Like
Clarkson.
Yeah, Rihanna's last album, the guy who did the track made like 11 or 12,000 for the track, but her voice coach made 20,000 for voice coaching the vocal session. So that's how important it is. So Robin does that part, and then when we get the vocal, then we comp it. You know, so you go through however many takes you have and pick up the best words and lines, phrases, and patch them together, to tune the vocals, you know, and then I'll start mixing. And then typically to do a master, you can take the amount of time you spent recording and you'll do at least that much or double that for the mix often, you know, which is one of the big differences. So like at a typical country demo, you know, you have really good players and they may do, doing country demos, they'll often, they may do 6 songs in 3 hours. And they may do 15, 20 minutes on a mix. And there lies the difference, because the musicianship was great, but the difference in making it a master instead of a demo is in the mix. Because, you know, usually they get cranked out as a demo mix where, you know, the vocal isn't leveled right, doesn't have enough effects, is too loud. And they're just things that when it hits LA or New York, they go, well, that's like a country demo, you know, instead of a master. So it's real important to get the mix right. And I've had the good fortune to be around and learn from some of the most famous producers, mixers, you know, literally Jimmy Jam, you know, for Jam and Lewis and R&B, and Armin Steiner and rock, and Chris Cordelgi, Eddie Kramer, who did Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, Phil Ramone, who did everybody in the 80s.
Yes.
Oh, he was a great guy. I love that guy. He's great. He's tremendous.
Absolutely one of the best.
Yeah, he was wonderful. I sort of lucked into running into him at a restroom urinal and wound up spending, you know, a few hours with him and learned a ton from him. So.
He certainly worked with a lot of people. He worked with Billy Joel, worked with Celine Dion, Elton John, you name it. Like who's who. He's just such an iconic producer.
Pretty much what everybody late 70s to early 90s almost. Like all the biggest ones. Yeah, he was a New Yorker. So
what advice would you give to someone who wants to go into the music business?
Well, I think one of the single biggest things is, and I say this in particular having to do with sync, if you want to do TV and film, you know, and commercials and things. And I think, I mean, this is very true with everything, with record labels, with everything. But I think there's a lot of people, when they think about sync, they think, oh, well, what kind of music do I need to write to get syncs? And the whole point is, no, what you need to do is you need to figure out what you do best, and then just try and do that, and then find a place where it can have a home, because increasingly they want the things that are very authentic.
Yes.
You know, because 20 years ago, they loved coming to a one-stop shop like me where I could do anything and everything. But now they don't want that as much. They want something authentic. So like when I know that I'm doing a Black Keys thing, I need a real authentic Black Keys artist. You know, I can't just get a session singer that's good and ask him to sound like Black Keys. I need somebody that does Black Keys all the time.
Sure.
And so I think people really need to know what they do best and what's the best reflection of them as an artist. And then be as true to it as you can be, you know. And then also break rules. Just, you know, don't follow rules, because Nashville, a lot more than LA and New York, is, you know, has traditionally always been, you know, you have to do things the right way and follow rules. You know, like when you pitch, you can only pitch this way or that way. And my advice is to don't follow those rules, because if you follow the rules, it's really easy to stay unknown forever.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can break rules as long as you don't do it in an annoying or threatening way. It's like Chris Christopherson, famous for it, was to get somewhere. He wanted to get to Johnny Cash, and he knew that Johnny Cash collected vintage toy trains. So he found a really unusual, rare one, and then paid a helicopter to fly inside, because Johnny had big gates, you know, up north, you know, big high fencing gates. And so he had hired a helicopter to fly him in and land in the front yard. Came out, security guy came running up, you know, to yell at him. And then he holds up this vintage train, and the guy was like, oh, I think Johnny's going to want to see you. You know, so don't be afraid to break rules. My first day in LA, I'd driven all night in my pickup truck, you know, and I had a bad appointment with a publisher in the morning who dissed me. That was with reel-to-reels.
Yeah.
Right? And I he put on my reel-to-reel and he started playing it at double speed.
Oof.
I recorded to 7.5. He was playing it at 15.
Yeah.
Ring, ding, 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 and
Mm-hmm.
he had the bald head and curly hair and a smoking a stogie and
Yeah.
stood on the desk. And so after, anyway, the point is, I said, it's you're playing too fast. And go, yeah, I know, I get through them faster that way. So I said, screw this, I'm going to go to the biggest star in music, because I had 2 songs on a cassette in my pocket,
Yeah.
and and not realizing, that you have to pitch the appropriate thing to the appropriate person. So
Right.
I knew Michael Jackson was the biggest star in the world. It was late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Right
Yeah.
after Thriller.
Bad. I
So,
think this was around the time that album came out.
Yeah, and I knew they were on the 28th floor, one floor above Motown in this bank building. So I went down, spent all day trying to get in, and I got trapped on the fire escape outside the building for a while. Couldn't get in without setting off the fire alarm. I was on the roof. I was in. So like 6 hours later, I'm ready to give up, and I go down and I see a food delivery guy, and I start begging him, to let me sell me some chicken. I said, I haven't eaten in like 18 hours and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh no, I have a very important delivery. So I tell him my story, and he goes, Michael? Oh, I'm delivering this to Michael. So is Kentucky Fried Chicken, and he whips out this red and white striped paper hat out of his back pocket and gave it to me, and I went in with him. And Michael was polite, asked us to sit and eat with him even at this huge conference table of 20. And he listened to my songs, and they were grossly inappropriate. They were the kind of songs that you would pitch these to an old black baritone, R&B singer.
Like Barry White.
Exactly, right. It was very much like that kind of song. And here I am pitching him to the guy that just finished Thriller, So.
One of the most iconic albums of all time.
But, I didn't know. I was dumb. But he was so nice and so polite, and he got that listing. And then he said, well, that's pretty good, but I don't think it's the direction I'm headed in. Mm-hmm. And, but I mean, so the point is, sometimes it's important to be, to bend the rules and break the rules if you can do it in a non-threatening way.
Yeah.
And,
have fun.
Don't be afraid. Yeah, exactly. Have fun with it. There was another guy I knew in Reno that was a musician, and he would later become a famous singer and artist, but, nobody believed in him. Except and he left Reno. When I first arrived in Reno, I took his place in a band, and he left Reno for LA, and he rented a bear suit and then went into each record label and said, I have a singing telegram for, the head of the label for his, his anniversary or whatever.
Yeah.
And they would show him in, and then they'd take off the bear hat and pitch his song.
Wow.
And the first guy, I had him thrown out on the street physically in a ripped bear costume, which he had to pay for. The second label threatened to throw him in jail. The third label signed him. And his name was Stephen Bishop, and he wound up having a huge number one, so on and on.
Wow.
But, he realized that he had to do something unusual to get our heard, So, anyway.
Where can people find your music?
Oh, okay, sure. We are, best place probably is just GaryEarl.com, GaryEarl.com. And I've got, if you just do that and go to Sync, I've got lots and lots of music on there. And I'm just now opening up a Spotify account. I've always been thinking, since I'm not an artist, I didn't need one, but Spotify and iTunes are omnipresent now. So I realized even being a producer, I need to get on there. So.
Well, we can go on and on. You certainly have got a lot of stories to tell, but I want to thank you very much for coming on my show, and it means a lot to me and my listeners, and I hope to have you on again. You can come on anytime.
Oh, terrific. Sounds good, man. Look forward to it. I unfortunately have too many stories. I can talk forever.
Yeah. Well, we'll have you on. We'll have you on again soon. But thank you everyone for listening. This is the Piano Men with Stanley Carr. You can like us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/the Piano Men Radio Show. We've also got all our interviews archived on YouTube, so you can check that out as well. And I'll see you next week.